Continuing from the previous chapter, Xiao Yin finally encountered the envoy from the Mystic Three Heavens, preparing to participate in the Sect selection competition of Mystic Three Heavens. Curious glances swept over the unfamiliar figure, a modestly dressed middle-aged man in a plain robe. The middle-aged man seemed to be engaged in a lively conversation with Yu, both of them smiling and exuding an energetic demeanor. Is this the young man who gained the great fortune within the ruins? The middle-aged man's gaze shifted to Xiao Yin as he spoke. That's right, brother Hu. It's indeed this young man. Yu replied, signaling Xiao Yin with a subtle hint of his spiritual energy. Not bad, not bad. Such formidable soul power is beyond the reach of ordinary people. And from what I see, this young man's internal fire attribute suggests he might even be an alchemist. The middle-aged man furrowed his brow slightly, clearly surprised by his first impression of Xiao Yin. Senior, you praise me too highly. It's all just a matter of luck. I dare not compare myself to you. Xiao Yin stood up and cupped his fist respectfully toward the middle-aged man, though inwardly he was shocked. Even without suppressing his aura, it was impressive that the man could discern so much at a glance. Moreover, judging by how he addressed Yu as a brother, their relationship seemed close, and their strength must be on par. Aha, young man, obtaining such fortune isn't solely about strength. Luck is a part of strength as well. No need to be so modest, the middle-aged man responded with satisfaction. His sharp eyes could naturally see that this young man, named Xiao Yin, was different from others, lacking the arrogance typical of noble science. I had heard from your letters, brother Yu, that this young man who gained the ruins' fortune is extraordinary. Seeing him today, he indeed lives up to the reputation. It seems this year's Xian assembly in Mystic Three Heavens will be even more exciting, the middle-aged man chuckled. Ha! I entrust my daughter and young friend Xiao Yin to you in Mystic Three Heavens. Yu laughed in agreement. The middle-aged man looked at Yu and laughed. I'm merely responsible for guiding them. Mystic Three Heavens isn't under my jurisdiction. But given our friendship, why speak so formally? I'll naturally take good care of them. Had it not been for your commitments today, I would insist on a 300-cup drinking spree with you. Yu laughed heartily. However, Mystic Three Heavens has strict criteria when it comes to recruiting disciples. Several points need to be noted. First, one's background must be clean. Those with unclear origins are not accepted by any sects within Mystic Three Heavens, except for Solomon. After all, the major sects within Mystic Three Heavens value their reputation highly, and anyone with a dubious background would not be accepted. Second, talent must be exceptional. The path of cultivation is inherently arduous. Without excellent talent, it would only waste the time of the cultivators, leading to no progress. Therefore, those lacking aptitude are advised not to waste their time. Third, one must be able to endure hardship. Cultivation requires a strong will, and the journey isn't as easy as it seems. Without a steadfast determination and a long-term commitment, it's hard to achieve success. Fourth, all new entrants undergo a rigorous selection process. Based on their talents and abilities, they are allocated resources for cultivation. Therefore, not everyone can enter a sect to learn powerful techniques and martial skills. Everything depends on your talent and strength, the middle-aged man explained slowly. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yin frowned slightly. It was evident that, aside from the part about an unclear background, none of these criteria were problematic. But the issue lay precisely in that one point. Brother Hu, you're absolutely right. However, young friend Xiao Yin is a first-tier emperor rank alchemist, and also an elder enshrined of our Yu family, so there should be no issue of an unclear background. Yu, with his keen eyes, quickly perceived Xiao Yan's concern and spoke up. Although this young man is quite young and his spiritual power is not weak, being a first-tier emperor rank alchemist at his age is rather. The middle-aged man named Hudu murmured, deep in thought. Hudu, who had long been stationed in Mystic Three Heavens, knew all too well that while a first-tier emperor rank alchemist might not be extraordinary there, what set this young man apart was his age. To possess such formidable alchemical skills at such a young age was a testament to Xiao Yan's exceptional talent in alchemy. If this was true, Then this young man named Xiao Yin was truly terrifying. "Ha, brother Hu, when have I ever deceived you?" Yu chuckled. Moreover, many in our Yu family have witnessed with their own eyes young friend Xiao Yin refining a first-tier emperor rank pill and successfully subduing it, Yu added. The middle-aged man Hudu's eyes shifted slightly, then locked intently onto Xiao Yin. "In that case, we are all family," the middle-aged man said with a smile, as if pondering something. He knew Yu's character and habits well. Since Xiao Yin could be accepted as an elder enshrined to the Yu family, his background was likely beyond doubt. Hearing this, Xiao Yin, observing the actions and words of both the middle-aged man and Yu, finally felt at ease and sat down once more. Yu Ru, who had been beside Xiao Yin, also sat down closely next to him. "Ruer, why don't you greet your Uncle Hu?" Yu prompted. "Yu Ru greets Uncle Hu," Yu Ru said, standing up and bowing to the middle-aged man. However, her previous actions had not escaped his notice. "When I held you in my arms, you were just a baby in swaddling clothes. I didn't expect you to grow into such a refined young lady," the middle-aged man laughed heartily. "Indeed, time flies. It's been decades since we last parted." Yu sighed. "Are just the two of them going this time?" Hudu, aware of Yu's tendency to go on and on once he started reminiscing, quickly changed the subject. "Yes, this time it's just my precious daughter Yu Ru and elder enshrined Xiao Yin from Qing City," Yu replied. Hudu and Yu continued to chat for a while, mostly reminiscing about their childhood memories. "All right, brother Hu, you've come a long way. You must be tired. Stay here and rest tonight, and I'll host a banquet in your honor," Yu said, noticing it was getting late. "Very well, but don't forget my task," Hudu replied with a yawn. "Rest assured, I've already informed the people from the other cities. They will arrive in Qing City tomorrow, and you can take them all at once, saving much trouble. You had already made arrangements. Now, everyone, go and rest. You too should prepare yourselves, as you will likely depart tomorrow." Yu dismissed Hudu to rest, then turned to Yu Ru and Xiao Yin. The two nodded and went back to their rooms. This time, Hudu, the envoy tasked with escorting them to mystic 3 heavens from the 7 cities surrounding Qing City, was himself a peak 5-star Dodi. That he had been hosted at the Yu family's residence since arriving in Qing City spoke volumes about the ironclad relationship between him and Yu. Upon hearing the envoy's arrival, the representatives from the other major cities also began making their way toward Qing City, of course, with Yu's assistance. In the eerie silence of a wooden cabin, Yu found herself unable to sleep. She gazed at Xiao Yan's darkened room across from her and murmured to herself, "This is my first time traveling so far from home. I can't help but feel a bit reluctant to leave father. Xiao Yan, is it? Don't think you can escape from my grasp," she whispered softly, casting a determined glance toward the darkened cabin. Inside the cabin across from her, a slender figure suddenly shivered. Before they knew it, the night passed, and it was dawn. On this day, after a hearty meal and generous hospitality, Hudu retired early. Meanwhile, the representatives from the other 7 major cities were well aware that today was the day of their departure. Only in mystic 3 heavens would the prodigies of the 7 major cities learn that there are always others stronger than them, beyond the horizon of their world. Only there would they gain access to more powerful cultivation resources and broader knowledge. As such, the city lords of each city actively cooperated with the envoy from mystic 3 heavens, recognizing this as an essential experience for any future successor of a prominent family. In Wu City, before a dilapidated hall, a few household servants looked up to the sky. Following a great explosion that had shaken the heavens, Wu City had suffered considerable losses. Many of its once luxurious buildings were now in ruins. Yet, despite this, the usually hot-tempered lord of Wu City seemed subdued, as if the loss of his beloved son had left him lost. It wasn't until today that he made an appearance again. From a towering pavilion, a mighty red battle aura shot skyward. The figure wrapped in this battle aura was none other than the Lord of Wu City. "Today, we shall leave Wu City to undertake an important mission. Everything in Wu City will remain as usual," the city lord declared from atop the pavilion. "After I leave, Muley will be in charge, he continued, standing on the pavilion with a sigh. If it weren't for what happened to his son, he would have been content to remain the local overlord of this small territory. However, with the tragedy that had befallen Wu Huan, he now had no choice but to lead his men to that particular faction's domain, for they were the only ones capable of saving his son's life. How could this happen? Could it be that young Master Wu Huan truly met a tragic fate? Voices murmured from below the pavilion. The Lord of Wu City paid no mind to the murmurs around him. A fierce red battle aura erupted from his body like a ferocious lion. As he stood atop the lion's head, his gaze was fixed on a distant house in Qing City. Xiao Yin, you little bastard, I will kill you to avenge my son's death. His lips twisted into a snarl for a moment, but he quickly recalled his current mission. Pulling his gaze away, he hesitated no longer. With a swift movement, his entire body vanished into the horizon. As the Lord of Wu City disappeared, the members of the Soul Clan followed closely behind, clearly with a plan in mind. Mulu had already set out on his journey to Qing City. Underneath a solitary peak that resembled the blade of a sword in Sword King City, a black silhouette with a heavy sword on his back emerged step by step from the mountain, muttering something as he walked. As he drew closer, it became evident that he was a young man in a gray robe. Upon closer inspection, who else could it be but Wang Zhong? The black cloth that once covered his eyes had vanished without a trace, and a black mark on his forehead emitted an aura even more terrifying than before. The side effects of that mark are becoming increasingly severe. Be cautious from now on. Don't remove it unless absolutely necessary, or you risk falling into madness. A slender figure spoke slowly. Let's hope that in Mystic Three Heavens, this mark can be suppressed. Wang Zhong replied with a bow, clasping his hands toward the thin figure before him. He then wrapped the black mark on his forehead again. Although the slender figure standing before Wang Zhong appeared frail, only Wang Zhong knew that his seemingly delicate master was, in reality, a formidable warrior, on par with Yu, the head of the Yu family. However, his master, obsessed with the essence of the sword, paid little attention to such matters. You need a worthy opponent to sharpen your sword. The 7 cities can no longer contain you. Mystic Three Heavens should be the best place for you to comprehend the essence of swordsmanship. As for cultivating swordsmanship, I can't help you much. You have to rely on yourself. Be careful on your journey, the raspy voice of the slender figure said before disappearing. Wang Zhong nodded understandingly and headed towards Qing City. He was already accustomed to his master's ghost-like comings and goings. Within the city of 10,000 beasts, deafening roars echoed through the city. All the citizens watched as a giant winged beast flapped its enormous wings and soared into the sky. On top of the winged beast knelt a petite girl with long green hair and lively eyes, exuding an air of mischievousness and playfulness. It was none other than Lu Yin. On her delicate shoulder, the ice-blue little Han hopped joyfully, chirping happily, clearly excited to go out and play again. Interestingly, the coldness in little Han's bird eyes seemed even stronger than when it was inside the ruins, indicating some sort of growth. Father, we're leaving now. Don't miss me too much, Lu Yin said, stroking the little bird, her face full of excitement. Let's go! With a shout from the girl, the originally small and delicate little Han suddenly expanded several times in size. Its wings flapped, and it accelerated rapidly, soaring away on the wind. Master, the young lady's beast-taming skills are truly remarkable, a steward remarked, watching Lu Yin fly away. Naturally, after all, she is being trained as a successor, the one addressed as Master replied. In a martial academy, a shirtless man with a robust physique stood, his muscular build drawing admiration from onlookers. It seems you've gained quite a lot in the ruins, Sun Ming's father commented. They possessed the power of berserkers, which allowed them to surpass their physical limits after activation. While they also cultivated battle aura, they placed greater emphasis on honing their physical strength. Be careful in Mystic Three Heavens. It's not like our 7 cities. he said with a tone full of fatherly concern. Got it, enough already. I'm leaving, Sun Ming replied, adjusting his clothes before heading out. To the north of Qing City, within the snowy domain aristocratic family. Miss, the envoy from Mystic Three Heavens has already arrived in Qing City. The head of the family asked me to inform you that you can set off now. A gentle voice of a maid called out cautiously from outside a fragrant pavilion. Understood. That Xiao Yin seems quite interesting, she muttered before disappearing mysteriously from the room. Inside Hell King City, a pale, bloodless young face emerged in a wooden cabin. His eyes were a dull gray, and an aura of death seemed to envelop him, sending chills down anyone's spine. Let's go. The envoy from Mystic Three Heavens has arrived. I hope Mystic Three Heavens can improve my condition. Otherwise, he began to cough violently mid-sentence, a large pool of fresh blood appearing in his hand. In Wind Thunder City, a young woman clad in a colorful dress infused with thunderous battle energy also set off for Qing City. Mystic Three Heavens, huh? I'm quite looking forward to this, she murmured with anticipation. The representatives from the 7 cities all made their way towards Qing City. Xiao Yin and Yu Ru woke up early, preparing their belongings for the journey. They then went to the main hall to wait with Hu Du, as today was the day they were to leave Qing City. The next day, as the first rays of morning sunlight bathed the land, Hu Du was already in the main hall of the Yu family's residence. Yu Ru and Xiao Yin were there too, waiting for the others to arrive so they could depart. Yu and Hu Du were chatting about trivial matters, while Yu Ru sat in the hall, seemingly uneasy. After all, it was her first time traveling so far from home, and despite having familiar people around, Yu was still deeply concerned. Father, don't worry. I will take good care of myself. Yu Ru understood her father's concerns and spoke softly, her delicate lips slightly parting. Now that you're older, I won't worry too much. Just remember to take care of yourself while you're away. Also, regarding that thing on your forehead, use it sparingly until you have the strength and the ability to accept the inheritance, Yu advised solemnly. Understood. Yu Ru nodded knowingly, her long, slender eyebrows twitching slightly, making her look even more beautiful. Seeing this, Xiao Yin could only shake his head helplessly, wondering how his own father and daughter were doing back home. As time ticked by, the representatives from the 7 cities gradually arrived at the Yu family. After all, this was the envoy from Mystic Three Heavens. They dared not miss the opportunity. Mu Lu was the first to arrive at the Yu family, greeting Hu Du respectfully. Although there was clearly some animosity between Wu City and the Mu family toward the Yu family for sheltering Xiao Yin, Mu Lu knew he was on someone else's territory and did not cause any trouble, finding a place to sit quietly. Next to arrive was a young woman in a colorful dress, Feng Yi, who entered in a whirlwind, her slender form faintly crackling with thunder. Upon entering the main hall, Feng Yi immediately spotted Xiao Yin, Yu Ru, and Mu Lu. She greeted the envoy from Mystic Three Heavens first, then, ignoring Yu Ru's gaze, walked straight up to Xiao Yin and sat down beside him. Just a few days apart, and your strength has increased so much, Feng Yi said with interest as she sat down, looking at Xiao Yin. Xiao Yin could only respond with a helpless smile, remembering that Feng Yi possessed dual attributes of wind and thunder in her battle energy and had a considerable amount of spiritual power. Though Xiao Yin wasn't afraid, he knew having more friends was always better than having more enemies. Yu Ru, sitting nearby, frowned slightly, her gaze fixed on Feng Yi as if she were guarding against something. The Deathless One appeared silently, his face deathly pale, causing those unaware to think he was unwell. He glanced around the hall before finding a place to sit and quietly wait for the others. Wang Zhong also arrived, greeting everyone in the hall warmly. A slim figure appeared in the hall like a ghost. It was none other than Yao Mei. Such an eerie movement technique, Hu Du remarked. Lu Yin and Sun Ming arrived shortly afterward. The representatives were all present. Mu Lu from the Mu family, Feng Yi from Wind Thunder City, the Deathless One, Kan Su from Hell King City, Wang Zhong from Sword King City, Yao Mei from the snowy domain aristocratic family, Lu Yin from the city of 10,000 beasts, Sun Ming, the berserker. The 7 representatives, one after another, arrived at the Yu family residence. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Xiaoyan carefully observed the group. The ones who left the strongest impression on him were the berserker, Sun Ming, and Wang Zhong from Sword King City. After all, one specialized in physical strength, and the other in sword intent. Compared to either of them, Xiaoyan knew he fell short in their respective specialties. Now that the 7 of you are here, along with these 2, that makes 9 in total. Since everyone has arrived, let's set off, Hu Du said, rising to his feet as he addressed everyone in the hall. Upon hearing this, everyone stood up, their eyes filled with eagerness as they looked at Hu Du. The strength of this envoy from Mystic 3 Heavens was formidable, which was a clear indication that Mystic 3 Heavens was a true place of trial. After speaking, Hu Du floated out of the hall and waved his hand. A streak of light appeared out of thin air before the group. Looking up, they saw the vast sky above the Yu family courtyard, where the colorful clouds were suddenly torn apart. The streak of light from Hu Du's hand transformed into a gigantic shadow that roared past them, quickly expanding. Seeing this, Xiao Yin extended his formidable spiritual power to cover the vast streak of light. Under his perception, it appeared to be a massive vessel. At first, the group couldn't discern what it was from afar. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was a giant ship. Its hull was engraved with intricate runes, seemingly protected by an invisible layer of battle energy. The ship emanated a mighty fluctuation of battle energy. This is a ferry boat, Hu Du explained with a smile. It's a tool we use in Mystic 3 Heavens for long-distance travel. It can independently create a spatial passage to directly reach Mystic 3 Heavens, saving a lot of trouble. Its speed is incredibly fast. All you need to do is infuse it with battle energy, and it will continue moving forward indefinitely. The energy consumption is negligible. Senior, why not use your own battle energy to travel? Mulu asked, clearly perplexed. It was apparent that the recent events in Wu City had left him without much opportunity to learn about Mystic 3 Heavens. While it's true that using battle energy for travel is possible, the distance from here to Mystic 3 Heavens is not a short one. If you insist on using your own battle energy for travel, I certainly won't stop you, Hu Du chuckled. Ha! Mulu fell silent, feeling as if he had been rebuffed. Since that's settled, let's board the ship and depart. I've already wasted some time on the way here, so we need to hurry, Hu Du urged. Upon hearing this, the 9 of them jumped onto the giant ship one after another. Brother Hu, I leave my daughter in your care. Yu knew that the time for these receptions was always tight, so he did not try to delay them further. Understood, Hu Du replied. With a swift movement, he instantly appeared on the giant ship. Hu Du released a surge of powerful battle energy, channeling it into the bow of the ship. As the energy was infused, the giant ship began to accelerate. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared from Qing City, heading toward Mystic 3 Heavens. Qing City was located on the border of the Xianling continent, whereas Mystic 3 Heavens was at its very core. The distance between them was exceedingly vast. Flying there would not only take much more time, but also require navigating through numerous checkpoints along the way, posing significant trouble. Moreover, with their mere 3-star Do-D strength, they lacked the ability to sustain such a long flight. This is why Hu Du chose to use the ferry boat. It was convenient, provided direct access to Mystic 3 Heavens, and allowed them to go over some important instructions mid-journey. These were the standard procedures for every escort mission. Therefore, Muli's earlier questions seemed quite naive. Clearly, none of the 9 had the strength to use battle energy to cross such a distance to Mystic 3 Heavens. The giant ship sped through a tranquil passage, surrounded by a massive battle energy shield that enveloped the entire ferry boat. Seeing this, everyone finally felt at ease. Find a place to settle in first. There's 1 room per person on the 2nd floor. Once you've settled in, gather tonight. I have some important matters to inform you about. Hu Du's voice echoed around them. The 9 of them followed his instructions. Xiaoyan curiously inspected the ferry boat, clearly intrigued by it. In one of the rooms on the ferry boat, there were exactly 10 people. They all sat quietly. Hudu sat cross-legged in the center, surrounded by Xiaoyan, Yuru, and the other 7 prodigies who were being escorted to Mystic 3 Heavens. They all sat cross-legged around Hudu. As Xiaoyan and Yuru sat down, they exchanged glances, clearly unsure about what Hudu was planning to inform them. Around Xiaoyan and Yuru, the others were equally confused, all turning their eyes to Hudu. At our current speed, the ferry boat should reach Mystic 3 Heavens in less than a month. So, there are some things you need to know in advance to avoid embarrassing yourselves when you arrive. Do you know anything about Mystic 3 Heavens? Hudu asked. Each time he escorted people to Mystic 3 Heavens, he would give them some advice. Although it wasn't required for someone in his position, Hudu felt it was necessary to give this group, who had never set foot in Mystic 3 Heavens, a bit of a primer. Everyone shook their heads in unison. Hudu sighed, clearly expecting this result, so he wasn't surprised. He continued, the Xianling continent makes up 1/4 of the Do D continent. Although it is the weakest among the 4 continents, it still has its pride and foundation, and that is Mystic 3 Heavens. It is the place where the true pinnacle experts and sects of the Xianling continent converge. Upon hearing this, Xiaoyan frowned slightly. It was clear that Mystic 3 Heavens was likely a place filled with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. After all, from what he had learned before, any place associated with Do, Xian experts could not be weak. The Xianling continent is quite vast. There are countless places like your 7 cities, far beyond your imagination. All the sects within Mystic 3 Heavens send envoys every year to various parts of the Xianling continent to recruit disciples. First, to bring in fresh blood, and second, to find promising talents to cultivate. After all, our Xianling continent has ranked last in the 4 continents Martial Assembly for the past 5 times. Hudu continued, what is the 4 continents Martial Assembly? Xiaoyan asked curiously. The so-called 4 continents Martial Assembly is a competition between the strong from the 4 continents of the Do D continent to determine their rankings. These rankings determine the allocation of valuable cultivation resources. Cough, cough. This is still far beyond your concern. For now, you should focus on joining a sect first, Hudu said, almost falling into Xiaoyan's trap before quickly stopping himself. The group nodded thoughtfully, clearly gaining some new insights from the envoy's words. All right, let's get down to business, Hudu said, taking a sip of the tea beside him and smiling slightly. After talking for so long, Hudu felt a bit thirsty. He smacked his lips and drank a few more sips of tea, glanced at the group, and then continued slowly. I must tell you, although you are considered prodigies in the 7 cities, and I am the envoy escorting you to Mystic 3 Heavens, this does not mean you are guaranteed to join one of the super sects within Mystic 3 Heavens. As soon as Hudu said this, the group's initial excitement subsided. On the Xianling continent, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of places like your 7 cities, each with a group of formidable talents. Similarly, talented individuals from other places will also be escorted to Mystic 3 Heavens. At that time, the number of people wanting to join a super sect in Mystic 3 Heavens will be in the thousands. These individuals, like you, are the elites from various parts of the Xianling continent. To manage this situation, all the super sects in Mystic 3 Heavens have established a rule for those who wish to join their ranks. When you arrive at Mystic 3 Heavens, everyone's internal strength, spiritual power, physical strength, and other factors will be assessed and recorded. Based on these comprehensive qualities, you will be classified into 5 levels. Hudu paused for a moment, giving the group a chance to digest this information. Upon hearing this, Xiaoyan furrowed his brow, understanding that there must be a reason for categorizing them into 5 levels. Seeing the group's silence, he spoke up. Senior, what's the difference between these 5 levels? There is a difference, of course. The 5 levels range from 1 to 5, with the 5th level being the highest. Although these levels do not offer any direct rewards, they play a significant role in the selection process before you join a sect. The higher the evaluation level, the greater the perceived potential, and the more attention you will receive from the super sections. Given the overwhelming number of applicants each year, there is a preliminary selection process before anyone can join a super sect in Mystic 3 Heavens. This serves two purposes. First, to weed out those who are just trying to make up the numbers, thus greatly reducing the number of applicants. Second, to identify the truly worthy talents for cultivation. The 5-level categorization also has a direct bearing on the selection process when you arrive at Mystic 3 Heavens. So don't hold back during the assessments. Hudu said, clearly noticing that Xiao Yin had been holding back his strength and giving him a pointed look. Hearing this, Xiao Yin could only smile wryly. Joining a super sect was no easy task. The selection methods vary each year. Sometimes it's combat, sometimes a point system, and so on. The format is different every year. However, no matter the method, the elimination rate is exceptionally high, reaching as much as half. This means that among you, half or even more might be eliminated. If you are eliminated, you lose the qualification to join a super sect and will have to return the way you came. Hudu's words made the room fall silent. The group frowned slightly, clearly not expecting the selection to be so stringent. After the selection, the top 10 will receive exceptionally generous rewards and will also have the freedom to choose which super sect they want to join. So, do your best, Hudu said, looking at them with an expression of hope. Among the 9, only Xiao Yin gave him a peculiar feeling, as if this young man would stand out remarkably during the selection. After all, having a spiritual power at the Imperial Realm mortal grade was exceedingly rare. But if you don't pass the selection, there is still a chance that some powerful sect might take a liking to you and reluctantly accept you into their ranks. However, this possibility is quite slim, unless you possess some unique abilities or a special constitution, Hudu said, casting a meaningful glance at the Berserker Sun Ming and Wang Zhou. It was clear he was directing these words at them. The two exchanged faint smiles, evidently not taking Hudu's words too seriously. They understood that Hudu was only trying to help them, but both had their pride. After all, if they couldn't even pass the selection, what right did they have to talk about joining a super sect? Everyone felt a weight on their hearts, as if a great mountain was pressing down on them. Inside the room, following Hudu's previous remarks, the once harmonious atmosphere became noticeably heavier. The 9 of them knew that when it came to cultivation resources, their 7 cities in the border regions of the Xianling continent were certainly weaker compared to other places. In contrast, the talents from other regions undoubtedly had access to far superior resources. Even someone as strong as Xiao Yin had a tense expression, his eyes showing a hint of anxiety. Among the 9 present, Xiao Yin, at the peak of the 3-star Do D, was the strongest. The other 8 were either in the late stages of the 3-star Do D or at the peak. In the 7 cities' younger generation, they were indeed considered outstanding. But in Mystic 3 Heavens, their competitors would be the elite from various parts of the Xianling continent. With the border regions being resource-poor, the talents from other areas were bound to be far stronger. This was why the city lords of the 7 cities strongly supported sending their heirs to Mystic 3 Heavens for better opportunities and resources. As the 9 left the 7 cities for the Xianling continent's most coveted cultivation sanctuary, their families had high expectations for them. If they failed to join any sect, it would be a huge blow to them personally and a significant hit to their pride. After all, each of them was the next successor in their respective city. Failing to join a sect would greatly diminish their standing within their families and could even hinder their future paths as leaders. Hudu glanced at the 9, but offered no words of comfort. The Xianling continent was full of prodigies, and the super sects in Mystic 3 Heavens were highly selective. Not everyone would succeed in joining, so there would naturally be both joy and disappointment among them. Hudu knew that comforting them wouldn't change the reality. This was something they needed to come to terms with themselves. The group remained silent for a while, but soon their eyes shone with renewed determination. Even though Hudu's words were intimidating, they were not disheartened. After all, their futures were in their own hands. As the chosen ones of the 7 cities, they weren't necessarily afraid of the talents from other regions. Seeing this, Hudu nodded in satisfaction. If these few couldn't handle this small setback, It would be better for them to return home early rather than embarrass themselves in Mystic 3 heavens. Alright, if there's nothing else, go and rest. Over the next month, make sure to keep your cells in peak condition. Hudu advised. Understood, they all replied. The ferry boat continued to travel smoothly at high speed through the black space tunnel. Shortly after Hudu finished speaking, several figures gathered around a wine table on the second floor of the boat. These were Xiao Yin, Yu Ru, Feng Yi, Wang Zhong, Lu Yin, Sun Ming, and Yao Mei. As for Mu Lu and the Deathless One, the seven present did not particularly care for them, especially since the relationship between those two and Xiao Yin was tense, so they naturally did not invite them. Initially, Xiao Yin had only invited Wang Zhong and Sun Ming, as they had left a strong impression on him. One was a sword fanatic, Wang Zhong, who focused solely on mastering sword intent, while the other was Sun Ming, a berserker focused on physical strength. Lu Yin was evidently very curious about the fire spirit on Xiao Yin, so she wasn't about to miss this opportunity and followed along. However, since the fire spirit had fallen into a deep sleep, she had no choice but to wait. As for Feng Yi and Yao Mei, the two seemed to have a good relationship. When they saw Lu Yin moving, they hurriedly followed, afraid they might miss something. Thus, the seven of them gathered. Originally, Xiao Yin had thought that since they hadn't yet arrived at Mystic 3 heavens and everyone hadn't gone their separate ways, they might as well gather. This was partly to make more friends, given that he was currently alone, and partly because he knew very little about Mystic 3 heavens. Judging by the way Wang Zhong and the others hesitated earlier, it was clear they knew something. Wang Zhong and the others understood Xiao Yan's intentions and had agreed to come. After all, regardless of anything else, Xiao Yan's ability to obtain great fortune from the ruins demonstrated his formidable strength. There was also a more compelling reason. Xiao Yan was now a first-tier emperor rank alchemist. Such status made even their 3-star Do-D strengths eager to befriend him. The seven sat around the wine table, aware that no matter their previous reputations or titles in the 7 cities, all that would be left behind when they reached Mystic 3 heavens. The path of cultivation, the road ahead, must be walked by themselves. Whether they would once again reach the pinnacle or fade into mediocrity, no one could say for sure. For the 7 of them, it was their first time venturing so far from home, and they gathered together not only to alleviate the boredom of the journey, but also to form bonds. After all, having more friends meant more paths to follow, and they could help each other in the future. The 4 girls sat together, laughing softly and discussing topics unique to their interests. Despite their age, it was clear they were somewhat homesick. Seeing this, Xiao Yin smiled slightly, then raised his wine cup and turned to Wang Zhong with a grin. I've long heard that Brother Wang's mastery of sword intent is exceptional. When I saw it in the ruins that day, it was indeed quite formidable. In the ruins within the demonic beast mountain range, Xiao Yin vividly recalled Wang Zhong wielding his massive sword to single-handedly confront a peak 3-star Do-D guardian. It had truly astonished Xiao Yin. Moreover, when Wang Zhong removed the black cloth from his forehead, his strength could burst forth with tremendous power in a short time. Brother Xiao, you're too kind, Wang Zhong replied before downing his drink in one go. It was clear that Wang Zhong was obsessed with sword intent and somewhat indifferent to social interactions. Xiao Yin understood this and smiled without saying much more. He knew that although Wang Zhong was taciturn, few dared to underestimate him in a real fight. Wang Zhong, with his forehead wrapped in black cloth, looked up at Xiao Yin and took another deep drink. I can sense that you're a rare opponent. I hope that in the future, I'll have the chance to truly test my sword against you. Xiao Yin laughed and replied heartily, Anytime, I'm ready. He then raised his cup again and engaged in some light conversation with Sun Ming. After a while, Xiao Yin looked at everyone with a smile. He knew that they had likely all felt the pressure after hearing from Hudu about the challenges they would face in the future. Xiao Yin raised his cup, glanced around at everyone, and after a brief silence, smiled and said, Friends, we've fought side by side before. Although our 7 cities are small compared to Mystic 3 heavens, a person's starting point doesn't determine their end point. So when one day in the future we stand at the pinnacle of the Xianling continent's younger generation, they will realize just how remarkable our small 7 cities truly are. Everyone, I hope to see you again at the peak of Mystic 3 Heavens. I'll drink first to show my respect. After he finished speaking, a fierce fighting spirit gleamed in Xiao Yan's eyes, clearly stirred by Hu Du's words, igniting the fervor deep within him. Yu Ru stared in a daze at Xiao Yan, finding him particularly charismatic at this moment. Feng, he was also drawn by Xiao Yan's words, looking at him with great interest. As for Yao Mei and Lu Yin, they both watched the group in the center. Hearing Xiao Yan's speech, Wang Zhong and Sun Ming felt their blood slightly boil. They raised their cups and clinked them together with a heavy thud. Ha! Then let's see, in a few years, how many of us will have made a name for ourselves in Mystic 3 Heavens?